Our next speaker is Dr. Akman Sataki from Zakib Financial. Is Dr. Sataki here? I'm sorry. He will speak on Islamic financial planning and provide a brief overview of his own background, if you will.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So first, I thank you very much for having me here. I'm actually a physician and a practicing physician, but my hobby was finance, and I went on to become a certified financial planner and investment advisor, and started a firm. And my strong interest is in Islamic financial planning. I noticed that this is a very deficient, actually, aspect of the Islamic life, and we'll see why. So, as you can see, even like what is financial planning, we talk about being aware. A lot of people are not aware within the Muslim community what is financial planning. They say, do we need it? But actually, it involves a lot of things, as you can see, and it is all related to our life in many different aspects. And actually, Muslims need financial planning more than the general population. As you can see, a lot of us are immigrants. We don't have any, emergency extended family here for emergencies. We, if we're not citizen yet, we don't qualify for a lot of benefits, and our burial is different. If we die, our children need guardians, and, sometimes the rest of the family is not here. And, if we leave inheritance, sometimes some of it has to be transferred overseas. So we need to plan all of those stuff ahead of time. As, as was presented earlier, our community is younger. So we tend to be a procrastinator, oh, I'm young, I still have time to plan. So our community tends to delay that more than other communities. And we're actually new to this idea. Where I came from, I came to this country over 30 years ago from Syria. I don't think we ever heard anything called financial planning over there, okay? We go with the flow. Here, it's a well-established. A lot of people, who are established, even middle-class families, practice financial planning. So we're new to this idea. And not only that, we like to do it on our own. We don't like to, give it up to the professionals, and we consider, oh, they're going to charge me a few $1,000s to do financial planning. That's a lot. I can listen to YouTube videos and do it on my own. Yeah, I'm just telling you my experience with the Muslim community. Not only that, as Muslim communities, because we're smaller community, we tend to say, okay, well, I don't want to expose all of my finances to somebody in the community, So Muslim advisor or financial planner sometimes is less desired because of that. And sometimes Muslims don't like to work with each other because they say, oh, if something happened, I'm going to lose my friendship with this person. So I might, stay away from having any business dealing with my Muslim brother. And, we tend to have traditional family structure, so the men are more likely to work and the women are more likely to stay home and have less financial kind of experience. And not only that, you really need a Muslim financial planner. Not only you need financial planning, you need a Muslim financial planner who understands the differences about, religion, Islamic religion. How we view wealth is different. As the sister just talked, we have different behavioral understanding of finance. We prefer to take Islamic financial decisions even on the expense of profit. And, we stay away from riba, and, we don't like to acquire debt. We also don't use insurance unless we have to. And, also we try to earn from halal and spend in halal. We try to be moderate. We're not after luxury, as much as other people. Also, when we gift during lifetime, we have, especially between our kids, we have to be equal and fair. And when we die, our inheritance has to be distributed in Islamic fashion. You know, it's not up to us. It's up to the Sharia, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know, decreed to us. And also, this is the issue is very rare, but, you know, sometimes, you know, some Muslims practice polygamy. And, you know, most of the time, those are not registered, and that create a problem for financial planning that sometimes need to be addressed. And finally, we have our zakat obligation that has to be included in our financial planning. So you see, it's very different from regular mainstream financial planning. I'm not going to dwell on this a lot, but our understanding of rizq and wealth in Islam is different, okay? We believe that rizq is guaranteed from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we are content with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us, and we understand that we want our wealth to be blessed. We don't care a lot about the quantity, we care, you know, a big degree about the quality. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves us more by having halal wealth, not by having a lot of wealth, you know. But, you know, we can, because of the sake of time, I'm going to move quickly through them. And, of course, prohibition of riba, that also limits our investments. And I want to mention here that as we plan for like buying a house, which is part of financial planning, some scholars in the past have allowed Muslim families to buy through mortgage, you know, because that was the only choice they have. But now, alhamdulillah, we have several Islamic options, and AMJA have created, you know, rulings about different companies that provide Islamic finance for homes. For investment, alhamdulillah, also we have several companies that provide halal investment. But notice also that when we do financial planning, we don't only tell the client, you know, go ahead and buy Islamic fund. It's very important that they understand that they have to diversify. They have to balance their investment. You know, they have to do real estate, and real estate means, you know, maybe buy a property on your own, because real estate fund on the stock market is haram. Most of it is mortgage based. They have to, you know, invest in stocks, and they have also invest in businesses. So they have to diversify and always revisit their investment. And it's because their priorities change over time, and their risk tolerance does as well. Now, part of also planning is educational planning. You know, from the minute you have a baby, you probably want to start their educational fund right away. Because if you wait till close to college, you're like $50,000 or $100,000 behind. You know, college is very expensive now. And we as Muslim also are discouraged from taking student loans. So we have some halal options. I mean, 529 is a wonderful option, believe me. But unfortunately, we don't have any halal 529 account, because all the states, you know, sign with big firms to do that. They don't really sign with Muslim firms or small firms. So we don't really have a halal option. So if you end up buying 529, you have to be very careful, and you're not going to be, you know, buying 100% halal. But what you can do, you can start an investment fund for yourself or the kids and grow them, although they'll be taxable, but, you know, you can grow them and keep them for education. You can also open a Roth IRA account in your name, or when the kids start working, you can open it in their name, and they can use that for education with no penalty, you know. There's also, if your capability to only pay $2,000 a year, then the Coverdale Educational Saving Account is perfect for you, because you can start that and you can invest it in an Islamic way. Now, But make sure also you pay attention. As I said, as Muslims, we want to really have equality between the kids. You cannot like pay $200,000 for education on one kid and not provide the others. So, you know, or maybe one of your kids go to college, the other one doesn't. That doesn't mean that you spend all of your saving on one kid and leave the other with nothing. So you have also to keep that in mind as a Muslim parent. The other thing that you have to keep in mind, that some of those accounts are, you still have control. For example, I'll give you the 529, okay? Although you put it in your child name, you are the controller of the account. So you are still responsible for zakah on that account. And also if you die, most likely that's considered part of your inheritance and has to be redistributed in Islamic fashion. So, you know, that's why from Muslim standpoint, keep attention to that. College loans, and we know it's haram, it's interest-based, and that's why I put the AMJA ruling, because honestly, because it's expensive and a lot of Muslim families don't have the means to pay it, but Islamic education is very important. Education is very important for Muslims. So AMJA has said that, you know, it becomes necessity if you don't have other option. Insurance planning, I mean, a lot of the insurance are necessity too. You know, on your property, on your car, those are mandated. Health is also very mandatory. And I don't know, you know, I'm looking forward to our Sheikh to tell us about the disability insurance as well. Because as Muslims, you know, let's say you're immigrant to this country and you're only one person working in the family. If you became disabled, your family is, you know, devastated. So we need ruling on that. But I also, about life insurance, if you're a new immigrant in this country, you are working, you have wife and you have children, and then you die, your family will be in very bad shape. So Sheikh Ma'an al-Qudat is here, alhamdulillah. I found his ruling on term life insurance, and he said that is allowed under necessity. And it's not really that expensive for the young Muslims who don't have, you know, any emergency plan for their family. This might be, you know, an affordable and a good one to have. And he'll speak to that in the question afterward. Estate planning is the biggest portion of Islamic financial planning. Because look at those funeral, guardianship, power of attorney, advance directives, gifts, and wills and trusts and business succession and wealth preservation. All those points can be addressed from an Islamic standpoint. First of all is the, medical power of attorney, okay? So if you're not capable to make medical decisions, this is different from the regular power of attorney, by the way. It's a different paper. So make sure you fill that. And you tell your power of attorney what's your plans, because refusal of medical treatment varies between fuqaha, okay? But it looks like, Wallahu alam, I read several studies on that. It looks like that if it is certain that if you don't take the medical treatment that you'll be harmed, then it's haram, and it's haram for you to refuse medical treatment. If the medical treatment is questionable, then it's up to you whether you're not obligated to take it. Okay, so the more certain the benefit from the medical treatment, the more obligated you are to take it as a Muslim. So, but you have to understand that, and you have also to tell your family about that. And let's say you have a terminal illness. You also, under the same ruling, you are allowed to tell your family, if anything happened to me, I don't want to be on life support. And that's what we call do not resuscitate, DNR. Of course, euthanasia is haram in Islam, though. I just want to mention that very quickly. And the other point about disconnecting life support. As a physician, I can tell you this is a very contentious issue. And Muslims, so religious Muslims, tend to stay on the ventilator a lot longer than than people from other faith, because they struggle with this issue. I have a relative who's terminal with no hope on the ventilator, but, they're not brain dead. Fuqaha, most of them say, okay, if it's brain dead, you can take him off the ventilator. But most fuqaha don't address the point, if they're not brain dead, but they're terminal and hopeless, what do I do? Some fuqaha now allow the physicians or the family to make a decision on behalf of the patient and go off the ventilator. But believe me, this area is still very deficient in rulings. Organ donation is probably a lot clearer. Funeral instruction. He said, why do I need funeral instructions? Well, first of all, if all of your family is Muslim, at least you tell them how to do your funeral according to Sunnah. But oftentimes, we need that. Like, let's say both parents die at the same time, or you're a single parent, you're married to non-Muslim, or you're a convert, So it's very important that you write your funeral instruction and leave it very handy. This should not be part of the will. Usually people open the will after the deceased is buried, okay? And appoint someone to execute your plan. Children guardianship, very important. As Muslims, we care about having our kids stay with the same religion, right? We don't want our children to become non-Muslims. Our life is very important to us to live it as Muslims and to spread the message of Islam. The last thing you want to do is lose your kids to become non-Muslim. So it's very important. We've seen incidences where both parents die and the kids end up with non-Muslim family. So, as I said, most of us are immigrants, or we don't have extended family in the U.S. So write this in your will. Appoint a guardian and a contingent guardian and a secondary contingent guardian. Because sometimes, you appoint someone as a guardian and they die before you do. And by the time it's time for your will to be executed, they're not there anymore. Or maybe they're sick, or maybe they cannot do it anymore. So appoint several people and update your will or trust all the time. And plan for all those problems, even like immigration issues. Sometimes you're on a visa and your family belongs to your visa. So if you die, they'll have to leave this country. So also plan for that. Sometimes the financial guardian can be different. So when you think about your kids, think who is the legal guardian and think who is the financial guardian as well. Now, how is inheritance distributed in Islam? Of course, we pay for the funeral, we pay the debt, and then we come to the wasiyah, which means you pay for charity, and then the rest goes to the Islamic inheritance distribution. But it was in wasiyah, like let's say you have, a non-Muslim relative, or you're married to a non-Muslim, spouse. They cannot have an Islamic inheritance, but she can leave something for them in the wasiyah part. Now, what is the issue with Islamic distribution in this country? Well, you might say, okay, according to the Islam, my kids get this, my daughter get this, my wife gets this, my mom get this, and you put it in your wasiyah. Well, a few years later, this might change. A person might die, you might have new kids, so you have to constantly update that. Not only that, how about if two people in the family die together, or they die back to back within days? The American law about that is different than the Islamic law. How about if you have a non-Muslim relative, or you have a Muslim relative who is an atheist? You think the judge is going to decide if he is Muslim enough to get the inheritance? No. The judge is not going to interfere in that. So that is also another issue. And if you put in your will Islamic distribution, just Islamic distribution, the judge might say, I don't know what that is. And in a lot of states now, they have anti-Sharia law. They said, I don't want to even apply Islamic inheritance. And if you leave a big chart for the judge, he might also say, this is too complicated for me. So how do you deal with that? Either you update your will, frequently, or you appoint someone in your will to decide the distribution, or better yet, the best option for Muslims is to do a trust. And the trust, you can have somebody within the trust, either the trustee or a trust protector who's not the trustee, because the trustee usually implements exactly what's in the trust. But you can have somebody outside, independent, who has the power to change the distribution within the trust. And all that happened without going to court at all. You see the beauty of that? Okay. The other issue also with Islamic distribution is joint ownership. You see, in Islam, there is nothing called joint ownership. But I think almost 95% of Muslims in this country own their houses jointly with their spouses. You know? And what it means, when I die, the entire house now belongs to my wife. Well, this might be 90% of what I have, you see? So how do I deal with that? You know? So, but at the same time, if I take everything away from my wife and give it in the name of my children, how about if my children don't care about my wife after I die? And they told her, you have to leave, and leave her with not enough, you know, residence or I'm sorry, yeah. Hopefully I'm almost done. You know, not leave her with enough, okay? Or how about if the wife, you know, goes back to court and say, according to the law, I can take half anyway. You know, a lot of states have that. So, you know, we have to deal with all those issues, you know. And not only that, let's say most Muslims have first marriage, very, very trusted wife. The kids belong to both of them, okay? And you're 100% sure that your wife will have the best interests of your children, and she will raise them and eventually will give them their share. But remember, if you die and your wife is young, she might remarry. And if she's not paying attention, that new spouse will have half of the ownership of that house without her knowing. So you immediately allowed, you know, the new spouse to take, you know, most of what your kids deserve. So that's why trust is very important. So, as we mentioned, you know, if you don't pay attention, your kids will lose their inheritance, you know. So use a trust, and then within that trust, you can also protect the children. So you say, like, if my wife marry after I die, she's not the trustee anymore. You appoint a different person, okay? And not only that, you can protect the children, because you don't want also, when your children get to be 18-year-old, you say, okay, here's $1 million. No, you don't want to do that either. The trust allows you to divide the money over the years, or even say they can use that only for education or to buy a house. You know, the trust is beautiful about that. And there's also something called special need trust, because if you have a special need child, means, you know, he's receiving assistance and insurance from the state, he's on Medicaid because his treatment is so expensive, nobody even can afford to insure this kid, that's why he's on Medicaid. Well, if you hand him an inheritance, he will lose his benefit right away. So there is a special need trust where he's only a beneficiary and he doesn't even own that trust. So also you can help them that way. The other point I want to mention about Islamic distribution, that you cannot just say, okay, I'll give the house to this person, my retirement income to this person, and my real estate property to this person, and my business to this person. Those different accounts have different tax liabilities, okay? You cannot give one person liquid property and one person illiquid property. If you give one person your retirement account, most likely he's going to lose 70% of it to income tax and inheritance tax, you know? So you have to bring all the accounts and see what's the net value of those accounts and then divide them, okay? Not the overall value, because they all have different tax liabilities. So how do you structure? If you don't have any will, you'll be in trouble. You will not have any guardian, and the state will divide your inheritance based on the default law, not the Islamic law. The best is to have a will, and the better is to, within the will, you say, if I die, the kids' portion will become a trust, and you name the trustee. This way, the court will not hold the money all the time until your kids are grown up and suddenly throw it in their lap when they're 18. And as we said, the best option to do a trust, and sometimes even you can gift part of your money during your lifetime and give it to the kids as irrevocable trust, you know. And if you are a very, very wealthy person, you can even set up a family trust, you know. And again, I'm not going into details, we don't have time, but there are so many options, depends on the structure of your family and your wealth. And wills, although they're simple, but they go to court, everything is public, they can be protested and contested, and you know, the ultimate decision goes to the judge. So trusts are private, they don't go to court. When you die, the trustee become in control, and they carry on the Islamic way of distribution, and they have more protections from creditors, you know, and also you can have different kind of trusts. You know, if you're married, you can have a trust in a way that say, okay, my wife stays in the house, and then after she dies, the house will be distributed to the kids. Or you can have a trust, and you can say the income of that trust will support the wife, and then, you know, the money go to the kids. Or you can say, you know, my kids can get their share, but, you know, a portion of it will not be distributed to guarantee that they support their mother. Something like that, you know. At the same time, you can also guarantee things for the kids within the trust. The trust can, you can say their mother is trustee or somebody else is a trustee, and you can say also if they're special need, that they don't lose their benefit. So the trust is very, very dynamic thing, but you have to have a lawyer to establish that. Finally, if you have a business, you have to plan ahead of time. Why not?
Why don't you put the fara'id formula in your trust?
You can do that. You can do that. Or, because as I said, the percentage change over time. Because somebody would die, somebody is born. You can also...
After we die, we just do our trust. My wife will get 1/8, the balance will go to...
Yeah, but when you write the trust, if you die a few days later, a few years later, this might change. So, but you can have within the trust that you can change the percentage according to fara'id. Yes, yes. But that's the beauty of the trust. You can have, it's very dynamic. And the business succession is very important. You know, we're running out of time. And also, if you have a big wealth, and that's also a question to our sheikh, is that I was reading some of the sources, and they said you can establish a waqf for the family. I know waqf can be charitable, but this one is waqf for the family, and they can be to the benefit of the family only. Maybe we can talk about that later, inshallah. Yeah. Now, and then finally, for charity, is there are also several trusts that you can establish for charitable reason, and you can plan for that ahead of time and save yourself a lot of taxes, by the way. I think I'm running out of time, right? Yeah? Okay. Jazakumullah khair. It's a very big topic, but as I said, Islamic financial planning is very important and is very different. Jazakumullah khair.